early 2007. And at that point, the BE codes were re-looked at. And I think most people realized that the narrow-based codes, as we kind of call them, focusing purely on ownership and employment equity, actually weren't necessarily making the shift that they needed to. And so they introduced a new pillar called enterprise development. And I guess what we had expected was our market was always that small business that needed our help. But in fact, overnight, what happened was our market became the corporate clients who suddenly now had this obligation to spend, or incentivization to spend 3% of the net profit after tax. That's a lot of money for a large mine, hundreds of millions. And they wanted to understand, if we're going to embark on this, how do we do it in a way that we sure get our points, but also hopefully get some of our money back. This doesn't have to be CSI, gets financial impact as well as social impact. How can we really build businesses, create jobs, and if possible, do something which has value in our supply chain as well? Can we not help businesses that can at the same time diversify and strengthen commodities that we would otherwise potentially import? So we were quite comfortable, obviously, having come from that type of background, almost shifting up the value chain and making corporates our clients, and doing advisory work around enterprise development. And really what we're trying to help them do is we're trying to help them understand how they could manage their capital in a way and deploy the capital in a way that they could achieve those 4 sets of benefits that I mentioned, transformational, financial, supply chain, and social. So we started developing this advisory practice in the ED space and did that for a while. And I think that was really the formal inception of Edge. We became a little bit disillusioned with the space in the sense that we'd get to the end of these nice pieces of strategy work, but they would turn to us and say, well, that's great, we understand what we should be doing, but we're not sure who and how we're going to implement this. We're a mine, we take rocks out the ground, we don't do SME or social venture capital, which is essentially what it becomes, because once you have the strategy, you actually need to go out and you need to find these businesses. Where do you source them from? Obviously, predominantly the supply chain is a place where most corporates start, but then you need to screen them. You need to understand, what's the mandate? Should we be investing in black-owned businesses? What's the job creation requirement? What's the financial requirement? What geography? It doesn't need to be in or out of our supply chain. Should we be giving debt? Should we be giving equity? And so the whole value chain of sourcing, selecting, doing the detailed due diligence process, structuring financial instruments that made sense for these businesses. If you just give them debt and it's commercial debt, they can't pay it in month 1 because they're going through growth cycle. So very specific and customized financial products. And then obviously where we started, the non-financial support that closes the other gaps besides the financial constraint. And so we at that stage were a very small business. It was still just 4 of us, and we still are a small business, but we didn't have the capability internally to actually take this on and manage these large sums of capital that some of our clients were looking for. So we thought that it was an opportune time to try and look to see if we could create almost an ED fund management capability, which essentially would be like social venture capital. We would be looking for sustainable businesses that had more than just financial outcomes, that had other key social metrics that we'd look to measure. And we actually were doing some work for FNB at the time in the ED strategy space, so we approached them and really we embarked on a journey for a couple of years where we built this enterprise development fund management capability. And really what it was about was trying to create a product or solution for what is globally known as the missing middle.